Hi, I'm Dad the Engineer. Today I'm going to cover a mod that doesn't require you to touch the innards of your printer and doesn't require any special skills or tools. Best of all, it will save you money, regardless of what 3D printer you use. Before I get to that, I'm going to ask you to like this video and subscribe to my channel. It's new and I could use your help. Thank you. With all of my older 3D printers, I really only used them one way. I sliced my model, saved the G-code to a flash drive or memory card, walked over to the machine, started it, selected my G-code, and started the print. Then in 1 to 100 short hours later, I would retrieve my parts, possibly unload my filament, and turn off the printer. Naturally, feature innovation was going on that whole time. For example, my cheaty iFast theoretically supported printing over Wi-Fi, but I didn't really care for their slicer, so I just used my foot-based workflow. Fast forward to today, and almost all new printers have MMC flash on them. Almost all of them support networked workflows. Many of them have cameras for remote monitoring, and all of that is great for sending print jobs across the network. You know what they don't have, though? Wake on LAN. I don't know of any non-commercial 3D printer I can send a magic packet to turn the thing on. If you do, please let me know who has implemented this in the comments below, because that would be a great feature to have. The lack of this feature means that your printer must be on in order for it to accept a print job. It does beg the question, how much power is that thing using when it's sitting idle? It would be easy to assume, in the age of Energy Star appliances, that these printers have some low power standby mode. The thing is, though, that I know that we haven't really gotten far enough out of the enthusiast engineering phase of the FDM lifecycle to where that's on anyone's radar as a significant concern. But hey, anyone can guess. Engineers? They measure. What I found was that my Creality K1C uses 11 watts at idle, and that's about the same as my 4-foot overhead light fixture. For those of you that are curious, power usage dropped to 9.93 watts on my K1C when I turned off the LED strip. Considering I want my time lapses to be usable, and because they're lit by this LED strip, turning it off independently of the printer doesn't make much sense in my use case. Assuming that you pay the national average for electricity, that would mean that you pay $14.47 to $15.53 to have your printer sitting idle for the year. I'm sure that you want to point out the problems with this, so I'll just preemptively say, 1. No. Your printer isn't going to be sitting idle all year, so your actual cost of idle time is going to be lower. Obviously, though, any usage will make your actual cost higher. 2. Not every printer is going to use the same amount of power as a Creality K1C. 3. You are probably not being billed by the average residential electricity rate for the United States, so your actual numbers will vary. Hawaii, for example, has a price about 3 times the national average at 44.14 cents per kilowatt hour. So that idling K1C would cost about $45 per year. Aloha. Oh, and 4. Some people will actually turn their printer off and on, like I used to. With that out of the way, I think that this power draw is worth addressing. You see, FDM printers generally have latching switches for toggling power. With a latching switch, you are energizing or de-energizing the circuit by mechanically closing or opening the paths for the mains electricity. Mechanical latching switches aren't really practical to control remotely. There are a few alternatives, but the most common one is a momentary switch, where the change in the switch state would potentially cause a controller to close a relay. The switch itself only changes continuity, momentarily. With that setup, other things could cause the relay to close as well, like a remote command. I imagine that simplicity and safety are a couple of the reasons why you don't see that kind of setup yet. A historical parallel would be the PC's transition from the AT to the ATX power supply. This allowed the motherboard to control power, enabling things like the PC being able to turn itself off at shutdown, power on or off over USB, wake on LAN, and other cool features. Bringing this type of functionality to your 3D printer isn't very complicated when using this video's workaround. This solution involves the use of an automation package. I generally use HomeSeer or Home Assistant, but I used HomeSeer for this solution. I paired it with a Ministon Z-Wave plug with energy monitoring, model MP31ZP, link below. The Ministon plugs into the power source, and the printer plugs into the Ministon. Power to the Ministon is controlled by HomeSeer. Power to the Ministon is controlled by HomeSeer or with the button on the side of the plug. This solution requires you to leave your printer's power switch in the on position. You can bring your own smart outlet, but just make sure that it can handle your printer's maximum current draw. Heated beds and extruders do consume a lot of power, and some outlets are made for light lamp loads. I'd also stick with an automation standard like Z-Wave or Zigbee, so you will be able to programmatically interact with the device. I'd avoid using a dimming-capable outlet unless you know how to turn that functionality off in the device. Finally, if you want to automate this thing, you should go with an outlet that monitors power usage. The energy monitoring feature opens up a lot of possibilities. I have my home seer configured to turn off the Ministon when the consumed power to the plug drops below and stays below 15 watts for 15 minutes. I also have a LifeX light turn on and change color to yellow when this condition happens, and I get an email. I also get an email if the power usage is above 15 watts and remains constant within 2% for more than 5 minutes. I find that to be a good condition to indicate filament runout. Sure, my different printers and apps have notifications and such, but this allows me to have a consistent messaging method, regardless of what vendor's ecosystem I'm working with. I have a shortcut on my desktop that calls a URL on HomeSeer to turn the printer on, but I just as easily could have it be an Alexa command or a physical button somewhere. The next step is to set up a DHCP reservation for your printer. I don't pretend to know how every slicer communicates with registered printers, but I do know that Creality Print appears to keep the association by IP address. MAC addresses or even NetBIOS name may be more resilient methods of locating devices on your LAN, but IP addresses can be fine, as long as they don't change. Potentially, cycling power on your printer could result in getting a new IP address if the previous DHCP lease has expired. That could be bad if your printer control software or slicer can't cope with that. Setting up a DHCP reservation will ensure that the printer will always get the same IP address. Most people use the DHCP server built into their internet router. If that's you, log into your router and set it up. It's generally listed in the local or LAN part of the menuing, and it will often let you convert an existing DHCP lease into a reservation. If you have any questions or comments about any of this, please let me know. I think the Venn diagram of people that are into FDM printing and those into telemetry and automation probably has a healthy amount of overlap. This problem and this solution may inspire you to tinker on your own. I'd love to hear about your own projects or problems that you'd like to solve in the comments below. If you found this video to be helpful and would like to see more like it, please like and subscribe. I know I asked at the beginning, but I'm just going to say it again. Starting a channel where you weren't just copying popular content isn't easy, and if you would like to contribute feedback, please engage with me in the comments below. If, like me, you're a little old school, please check out my website linked in my bio. Thanks, and have an awesome day.